Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a smashing Sunday. This is going to be a slightly different video to the videos that we usually put out around about this time every single day. In the evening, we really like to dive into projects that we are big fans of in regards to the cryptocurrency space that we think are going to play a major role in the world that we're moving towards. You know, distributed ledgers find themselves at the kind of convergence of most industry out there. Whether that be obviously the big one, finance, what this industry kind of spawned out of with Bitcoin, or whether that be, social, whether that be in regards to infrastructure, that the internet currently runs on an infrastructure more broadly. We're seeing cryptocurrencies solve the kind of broadcasting and kind of mobile network side of things, or whether that be, in regards to supply chains or things like identities, probably linking in with social or problems that governments face and AI and blockchains find themselves really at the convergence of many industries. They're a very useful tool that is going to be used to upgrade the world as we know it. And we're very bullish on many of the cryptocurrencies that we cover as a result of that. But instead of going into an individual project or a couple of individual projects, we're going to be talking about the kind of social state of the cryptocurrency market as a whole. And what do I mean by the social state? Well, really what I mean is the kind of perhaps masses involvement in crypto. And how do we look at that? How do we see how involved retail is in regards to the cryptocurrency space? Well, we do have tools out there. Like Google Trends is probably the main one. The Block actually have a number of good tools that we're going to be looking at, and we're really going to be talking about and delivering some good and bad news. The bad news is it's my assessment that retail really hasn't entered the cryptocurrency space yet, and there's little to no involvement from a kind of retail, the masses point of view in the cryptocurrency market, excluding the likes of obviously Bitcoin. And even in regards to Bitcoin, I think the main driver of Bitcoin's price, along with Ethereum's price and Solana's price, and we can back this all up with the likes of CoinShares report, which we're going to be looking at, has a lot to do with institutional investment, obviously around the ETFs, which of course many of the altcoins haven't benefited from yet. It's my assessment that it will come. We see the first filing for a crypto index fund from Hashdex. We know there's already crypto indexes that are already traded around the world from the likes of Bitwise, Grayscale's large cap fund, and 21 shares kind of index. We look at these, we use them as a barometer to be kind of, or a reasoning technically to be bullish on the space as a whole. If these are going to go up well, the coins within them are likely going to be doing well, and thus the space as a whole. But the altcoin market, I think, is generally suffering right now from a lack of interest and involvement, and we're going to be showing you that in this video. And again, the bad news really here is that retail largely aren't interested in crypto right now, obviously barring the main and obvious one, which is Bitcoin, because of the kind of social parameters that it brings to us and the kind of media coverage of it more broadly, not just sort of internally in the crypto space, but whether it be Joe Rogan, whether it be Lex Friedman, whoever it may be, everybody's talking about Bitcoin, and rightfully so. There's a real issue with the monetary system as we know it. And Bitcoin addresses many of those problems. It doesn't fix all of them, and we're very skeptical on the origins of Bitcoin and the true intent behind it, certainly in regards to moving us to a sort of global system. But in regards to the altcoin market, the bad news is that people aren't interested. The good news is that people aren't interested. And why is that good news? Well, because they will be. If this technology is going to play as big a role as what I believe it's going to, and what I think is quite obvious at this point, then there's going to be a kind of awakening or a turning on to these individual altcoin projects that have been really going from strength to strength despite the kind of market action that we've seen. And also, when you look at the charts, I like to teach in my market mastery course that currently isn't available. It's available for Patreons at the moment. Something that really is a derivative from Stan Weinstein's stage analysis, the Dow theory, and of course, Wyckoff's market cycles. And everyone, when they talk about Wyckoff's market cycles, only talk about the accumulation and distribution part. There's a kind of middle and end bit to that, which is an uptrend and a downtrend. And if you look at many altcoins, they're going through this accumulation stage, likely driven by perhaps smarter money and more in the know money, only to see what we think is coming, which is this kind of major bull market that we're really at the start of. Certainly when you talk about the altcoin market, we're still waiting for Bitcoin dominance and things like that to roll. But we will be linking all this in. The main sort of, I guess, insight in this video is in regards to the lack of interest that the altcoin market currently sees, and again, why this is a bad thing immediately, but a good thing more broadly in regards to the fact that they will become very interested and hopefully pump your bags if you've been accumulating throughout what has been a kind of sideways period. We got back into the markets at the start of 2023. We're really waiting for a big payoff in regards to that. We've seen, again, the likes of Arweave or something do very well. That was a 600% for us at one point. Fetch AI, things like AGIX. There's been numerous coins that have done very well. Markets generally going for a pullback, which is also very much in line with Google Trends, certainly in regards to the altcoin market. And that's why this is important, because who's going to be coming in and buying altcoins? Okay, yeah, we do think institutions will get there. But there's going to be a massive retail interest in them. And then, we can, of course, debate on, well, are we under the similar context of March 2020 and all the printing that took place and have retail got the money and stuff like that? But that's for another video entirely. Without further ado, let's dive into it. And let's kick things off with a very good but obvious chart. And that, of course, is crypto over the past 5 years. And this is Google Trends. So Google Trends is looking at people searching crypto. And you can see, in regards to where we currently are today, there is very, very little involvement in the cryptocurrency space. There's very few people searching the cryptocurrency market. Of course, it's not in the news generally. If we look at altcoins, for example, this is probably at an even lower state. And actually, if you look at the Google Trends chart, it looks exceptionally similar to some of our favorite coins like Hedera Hashgraph out there. So you can see we've been going through what we believe is a period of accumulation. You had your first kind of little inning, then you're having this kind of steep pullback, which is very much in line with kind of Google Trends and what we're seeing in regards to interest in this market. Now, generally, most altcoins look very similarly to Hedera. Chainlink was, and very quickly at one point became my largest position just because of how well it did after this kind of accumulation phase. But you can see there's been this initial kind of inning, if you will, is what we're going to call it, and then a pullback that's largely all been related to interest in the cryptocurrency space. And I'll offer a personal insight in just a second, when we talk about coins that have done very well and that are still, despite this pullback, significantly up, it's the likes of your Bitcoins, your Ethereums, and of course your Solanas. And I think that has everything to do in regards to institutional involvement. I think with other cryptos outside of the ones that are in the spotlight, there is institutional involvement because of what's potentially to come. But that's more hush-hush under the rug, if you will. So I like to, on a Monday, start things off with our CoinShares report. And it's basically a correlation, or not correlation, collective of flows that we've seen in regards to exchange-traded projects, so digital asset funds. And you can see this was not last week, but the week before. We obviously had massive inflows in regards to products. We had outflows in regards to, of course, Grayscale's Ethereum product. But generally, the coins that have appreciated the most are the ones that the institutions have had interest with. Now, that aligns with our thinking that retail really isn't here yet, which is bad news in the immediate, good news in the sort of more mid to longer term. So if you look at Bitcoin, of course, Bitcoin really leading the charge. Then you've got Ethereum. And then actually up until 2 weeks ago, Solana had seen more inflows in regards to the ETPs than the likes of Ethereum. Now, if you look at where Bitcoin currently is today, very much following the roadmap that we set out for it, I do still believe this is a pullback in what is a broader uptrend, and the space will go with it more broadly. But this is the vast majority of this probably has to do with institutions, albeit publicly and many non-publicly. And of course, there's been more retail involvement in the likes of Bitcoin, 'cause it's really in the spotlight than anything, I would say. Then, of course, you've got the likes of Ethereum, which we'll go ahead and pull up. And then, of course, you've got the likes of Solana, which we're very, very bullish on. I think Solana is very much a kind of golden child and institutional chosen cryptocurrency, likely because they know they're going to allow it to have an ETF and things like this. But when you look at the kind of altcoin market more broadly, so if we look at total 2, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's gone through this period of accumulation and then it's kind of had its first inning. There's been a slight retail involvement given obviously all the sort of news around the cryptocurrency space, and then it's kind of waning very much in line with Google Trends. And there's a number of other data metrics that we're going to look at in just a second once I've offered a bit of a personal insight. So when you do look at the charts, again, we're saying it's a bad thing that retail isn't here for the immediate, but it's a good thing that they're not here in regards to if you're an investor in the cryptocurrency space right now, and we are on the trajectory to see what we think is to come, because it ultimately means that they're really going to be sort of pumping the bags, if you will. And if you look at the phase analysis course that we've derived, the market mastery course, or you look at Stan Weinstein's stage analysis, or you look at the Dow theory, or you look at Wyckoff's market cycles, there's accumulation, which is where crypto's kind of at right now broadly. You could argue that Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of the others, largely led by institutions, have kind of seen a little bit more than and are out of that accumulation zone. But after accumulation, you get a kind of uptrend. So the smarter money accumulating, whilst retail largely isn't involved, ready to get retail involved. And there's likely going to be a lot of news and things like that is going to be orchestrated around all of this. So it in my opinion, it may not seem it. It's an amazing time to be in the cryptocurrency space. And we've kind of shown, based on obviously Google Trends, Google's arguably the biggest search platform, that retail largely isn't interested in the altcoin market just yet. Good and bad news out of that. Also, I want to offer a little bit of a personal perspective. So I've been making content on the cryptocurrency space since just before March 2020. Very interesting time to be making content when the market crashed in the manner that it did after that. And ultimately, from my own personal insight, we cover a lot of projects that we're big fans of and that we really think have a very bright future ahead of them. So something like Hedera we've just mentioned, something like the Internet Computer. Recently we've been covering a lot of XRP because of the technical significance that it has. Something like Cardano, for example, of course, something like Chainlink, something like Algorand, something like many of the other cryptos that we cover out there, Polkadot. We cover lots of different cryptocurrencies out there, a lot of deep in plays. If you look at the kind of viewership that we get on those videos, it's very good in relation to other content that's circulating. In fact, in regards to Hedera, Chainlink, some of the other topics or altcoins that we've mentioned, we get some of the most watched videos on YouTube. And a good video for us is anywhere between 10 and 20,000 viewers. If it's a particularly hot topic, I mean, there was one video we did on Hedera that got nearly 80,000. It's a kind of one-off, if you will. But typically 10 to 20,000. And we're in that kind of top viewership in regards to content relating to these specific cryptocurrency projects. Now, 10 to 20,000 might sound like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really nothing at all. Certainly in regards to where I think videos on this content is going to go, we're going to be getting to a stage where there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people watching this content. Right now, we're between that sort of 10 to 20,000. Generally is a good video on these individual topics. YouTube has an average monthly user of around about 2.1 billion. Okay, so 10,000 against 2.1 billion. Okay, not everyone that watches YouTube is into crypto, but in regards to people that are into sort of finance and things like this, it's really nothing. And the insight there is that, again, retail really isn't involved in this space at all yet. So you're very early. If you look again, going back to the CoinShares article that we sort of shared, or the report that we shared, the ones that have done well and have kind of maintained and are still up massively are the ones that institutions have had a lot to do with, and that are certainly in Bitcoin's case a lot more in the media, Ethereum also, and certainly Solana. Whereas the altcoin market still isn't there yet. But the good news is it's really being accumulated very heavily. So again, YouTube, probably one of the most gone to platforms for cryptocurrency information. 10 to 20,000 is a good result from somebody who posts some of the most watched in regards to those topics content on YouTube. There's an infinite or an exponential kind of growth that can be had out of that, and an asset's price is likely going to have a lot to do with it. As more people are interested, we've just looked at Google Trends and we've seen how actually you can see kind of that playing out in the charts with this kind of first leg. People interested, ETFs, Bitcoin ETF first time institutionalized, and then this kind of slump, if you will, and back to sort of bear market levels. There's going to be a resurgence. We know there's a lot happening on the kind of macro that's leading a lot of things right now. Again, when we look at some of these coins that we've mentioned, this is Hedera. this is your accumulation. You had this first kind of attempt at breaking out. Involvement really dropped off, really dried out. There's seasonality in that. There's seasonality to markets. There's also price action and interest as a result of it all. Something like Chainlink, again, something that's done very well for us. Breakout, kind of slumping a little bit. We mentioned ICP, which I'll just find for you guys very quickly. Similar thing. These charts, in my opinion, if you look at it on a zoomed out approach, are in a great spot for some pretty heavy upside accumulation. We can derive our reasons for being bullish on the crypto space from a number of things. Of course, technically is our sort of guiding light. Something like ADA, still very much going through its accumulation phase, and retail really largely on here. Again, looking at that kind of first inning and then a kind of slump down, if you will. Something like Algo, probably one of the weakest looking altcoin charts. No offense to Algo holders out there. We like the project. We've interviewed John Wood, the CTO, on a number of occasions. There's just no interest. Something like DART. If you look at even something like Filecoin, and we think data is of exceptional importance, and the storing of that data is there's probably more of a need to decentralize data storage than there is perhaps money itself in the world that we're moving towards. And then the ones that have had the kind of institutional involvement, like Solana, doing very well. So the whole kind of premise of this video really was just to highlight that it's the kind of larger Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana that have seen the institutional money, and that's why they're where they are. It's why Bitcoin went and put in a new high pre-halvening, like it hasn't done any other times, because the institutions are here. We're still very early. If you look at the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory into when the bulk comes, everything's on track. And I wanted to offer maybe some reassurance in regards to where we are in the crypto space. There's nothing really out of the ordinary that we're seeing here. Yes, altcoins are volatile, but you need to have understood that before you even got involved in this space. And when you go down the total market caps, so this is total 2 excluding Bitcoin. Remember, we think this is going to $3.8 trillion. And then it goes down even lower when you look at sort of BTC, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. And you can go even lower than that with others. Which we think is going to around about $2 trillion. So nearly a 10x from where we currently are. Some altcoins doing significantly better than others. I've not even spoken about Litecoin in a long time, but why not bring it up? A lot of interesting things going on, but the main sort of premise of this video is to offer some insight from somebody who not only makes content and is at the other end of those searches, but also to kind of give you a general social update in regards to crypto, where it's currently at, and the lack of involvement that is currently here, or participation from retail, but that will come. We can look at a number of other interesting things also. So this is from Blockworks, or the Block, sorry, not Blockworks. I don't know if they're competitors, and I've maybe just shielded the competitor there. But you can see blockchain related mentions by the SEC filings. Not interested particularly in that. You can see Google search volume. You can see the kind of low nature of it. Obviously, this is 2021, bull market. We've had an initial kind of spike, and certainly Bitcoin, by the way, is the one in the. Let's expand this. Bitcoin, by the way, is the one in the dark color, and then you've got Ethereum. Retail isn't here. This backs up a lot of what we're saying, and actually, accumulation phases are usually led by sort of smarter money. Google search volume for Bitcoin, Google search volume for Ethereum. If we sort of expand this and look at this again, you can see really not seeing any kind of retail involvement here for the space as a whole. Uniswap, NFTs, OpenSea, Web3, Solana probably a little bit more, but still in the grand scheme of things, yeah, I mean, doing very well actually. Again, there's that institutional involvement there. This is in regards to monthly exchange volume. Little to no involvement right now in crypto, even from an exchange point of view, which is typically where retail are going. Most institutions like doing OTC deals. Daily exchange volume. You can see what we're kind of showing here. So, just an interesting video, because I think really what this video highlights is a pretty interesting opportunity, in my opinion. in regards to the space as a whole. So this technology is very, very important because it's not a gimmick. It's not like a pet rock or anything like that. It's genuinely revolutionizing many of the systems and the world as we know it, whether that be, again, finance, whether that be in regards to things like identities and kind of digitizing the world or tokenizing the world, you know, which probably is a little bit more linked to finance, but also there's crossover into everything. There's going to be a kind of tokenized representation of everything in this kind of real metaverse. And blockchain, you know, when we talk about IoT, the Internet of Things, this is all still to come, and blockchain plays an important role in all of that. You know, robonomics, all of this kind of stuff. This technology is extremely important, and nobody really seems to realize that. I know you guys do at the other end of the camera that watch a lot of my videos, but nobody really seems to realize that, but it will come. And I think if you look from a chart point of view, what we've seen is accumulation. Typically, cycles are moved by smart money. So they're the ones that are accumulating at the bottom and selling at the top. Retail is usually the person somewhere in the middle, and we're still waiting for retail to show up, which I think is a good sign as a kind of closing statement to this video. So that's it from me, ladies and gentlemen. A bit of an interesting one on the social kind of state of the cryptocurrency market. Certainly more, probably I should say, the altcoin market. The cryptos that have done well have a lot of institutional involvement in them, and it's why they've done as well as they've done. Retail really hasn't woken up. The masses really haven't woken up, and they're predominantly, I would say, going to be going with the altcoin market than they are your larger caps. That's a claim that we're making here at Allincrypto. So that's it from me, guys. Have a smashing Sunday, and I'll see you all in tomorrow's video.